Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sharia Way Book Club podcast episode on the Broom Radio. Um, we have been reading in the Sharia Way Hazrat Inyat Khan's The Mysticism of Sound and Music, and have been jumping around a little bit, which has been fun for me personally. And so last week, I believe we read chapter 12. This week, we're focusing on chapter 17. And in this book club container, I welcome us to discuss, talk about, hold space for, disagree with anything that came up in this chapter. I'll say for me, reading this book has been amazing. I also am probably going to switch up the formula once we finish this book, so stay tuned. Thank you for that, Lexi. And yeah, I'm looking forward to this. So in chapter 17 is called The Effects of Sound on the Physical Body. And for those of us who are attending this container live, I want to just hold space and first see if there are any paragraphs, any sentences or phrases that occur in chapter 17 that you would like to kind of focus on, or maybe just talk about because you liked it a lot. There are a few places for me, but I'm happy to hold space first to see what kind of caught you guys' eyes.
Yeah, I have a few parts. I don't have the book pulled up right now, the PDF, but I had scribbled some notes down while I listened to the read along.
Oh,
And so there was one part where he was talking about like how like the ears are not like the only things that you can use to listen to music. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, we're thinking about like how you can feel stuff in your body. And like sometimes like if I'm trying to like control the timbre and the EQ of my bass, like I'll try to stand in front of the amp so I can like feel it in my body. And it's not like whether the notes are right specifically, but just like the sound comes out, like
Mm-hmm.
engineering the sound to feel a certain way. So I know if it hits my body and passes through, the people out there are going to feel it as well. So
Yes.
that's something I'm conscious of, but like I wonder if it's like y'all ever like hear with some other body part than your ears?
Yes, Tiff. I love that question. First of all, I love the example that you gave too, like just standing in front of the bass, because I'm sure the reverb like speaks to you, like to your body in that specific way. And it's really interesting because I feel like the week leading up to this book club, I have had like a lot of like music syncs where I'm like listening to a song or like a song I haven't heard before, and I'm like hearing it with my heart space instead of
Mhm.
just like focusing on the lyrics. So I feel like, yeah, that happens sometimes for me too. A lot of the times, actually.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Like the heart, like listening from your heart space. That's definitely a good thing to try out because it's just a whole different experience, like from what you're listening to. And like the idea that like some of it, like me myself personally, sometimes I can't hear a beat and like not move to it. So like I'm guessing my body can hear what's going on and wants to join in.
Exactly that part. I love that. Because I'm like, yeah, there is like, even earlier, I was listening to some music that was shared in the music thread, and I just was like moving. Like, I was just driving my car. I'm like bopping my head, moving my shoulders, because I'm like, there's something to sound that like the body cannot resist. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's so infectious. So I'm really glad that like, not only like we're talking about it, but I'm like, yeah, that feels like the perfect quote too. Like it's very, very timely. to kind of like speak to that part in the book.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read what Lexi said in the chat. Lexi says, "Yeah, I feel like sometimes I listen to things with my heart or womb space to discern things or feel in a different way." Ooh, I didn't even think about the womb space. Oh, what do y'all feel like is if there is a difference? You guys feel like the music has a different effect on you if it does sort of speak to like maybe your womb space, and then if it speaks to like your heart space, like is there a difference? And if there was, what would that difference be? Because I feel like for me, the womb space, I don't know. I wonder if that's the dancing thing now. Yeah,
Yeah,
Lexi says,
maybe it's like I don't really know if it's like fully the womb space for me, but like just that general area down there, like root energy. Like they say, you got the three major energy centers: root, head, and like heart. And like yeah, that's that that lower body feeling it is different, like different from listening with your head or listening with your heart. I think for sure. And
yeah.
it's kind of like taps into more grounding energy, maybe. So
Mm,
like a solid knowing of some sort that you just like what they call it, a gut feeling, that type
yep.
of thing.
Yeah. I love that too. Yeah. Wow. Because I'm thinking about like songs that have like strong bass, you know? And I feel like I have this routine where every morning I start off my morning with like meditating in my bed before I get up, drink some water, and then I like put on some music and start dancing or like just moving. Like sometimes it's not even like I have like a coordinated like dance, you know? I'm not like coming up with routines, but sometimes I'll just sway. And like even earlier today, I was doing like hip openers while I was listening to like house music because I'm like, yo, the house, you know, like there's a bass line in house music that really like bops, and I feel like something about the music that I was listening to was like I need to get low on the ground and like yeah, like she said, I think womb is more ancestral, definitely. I feel the same way. I'm also thinking about like, and I'll shield this, like music that inspires you to like shake your ass. I do sometimes feel like certain music, even if there's like a little bit of like tribal sound, which can be like maybe the artist is like pandering, but sometimes it's genuine. But I'm like sometimes when the like there's like tribal drums, I'm like, oh my god, there's like something that comes over me, and I'm like, I know there are some lineages that um support like spirit possession through virtue of like sound and drumming and instruments, which isn't in the book, but I also feel like is key for us to speak about because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've had that experience sometimes where I'm like, I just finished a week, like a long work week. I'm chilling in my house. I got the music on, and then like, ooh, I just get like, I don't know, like something literally comes over me, and I cannot resist moving. Lexi says, like there have been a few times where I feel songs in the lower chakras and I wanted to dance and it felt cosmic or like a remembrance of some kind or shaking boobs. Yes. Oh my gosh. Ah, I'm so happy you spoke to that, Lexi. Yes.
Yeah, that for me is like I don't really move like the bottom half as much, but I feel like it's connected to the whole external body. Like whatever makes you want to move something, like it's all that lower space energy. Like cause like for the past month or so, I just like wake up in the morning with this song. It's time for the percolator stuck in my head, and that's like a house
Uh,
beat kind of. And I just start like moving my whole chest like from the rib cage up and down, like it's time for the percolator, like up and down, like, and it just gets me going. But I feel like that, like low key. It could be chakra related. Like I'm trying to get my solar plexus going so I can
You-
take on the world or something. You know.
Oh my gosh, yeah, Tiff. Cause I'm like, yeah, like even just hearing you and Lexi speak to it, I'm like, yeah, they're like whole dances that are like committed to like shaking the upper body, not necessarily like the head, but that chest and solar plexus area. Like, sometimes I'll watch like belly dancers, like, if they come up like on my YouTube or like TikTok, and I'll see like that a lot of their movements are like in the arms, like in the chest. Doing that like chest shimmy is like how I can describe it. I feel like is definitely part and parcel of like getting like just waking up even those centers. Oh my god, and I had shared, which I'll share later if I can find it. I had shared and reposted this video on my Instagram story of this woman doing a traditional like cultural dance from Somalia. And like without getting into all the details about what the dance is, but there's a part in the dance where she literally gets on all fours and like is shimmying towards the ground. So it's like her heart is literally facing the ground. And I'm like, oh my God, something about watching it just absolutely blew my mind. I was like, yo, she is connected to the earth right now. Yes, Lexi, I posted it on my story and I just thought it was so funny. Like, first of all, because she was totally like engrossed, that she was probably like possessed by the music, but also just like watching her do that, it just changed my framework about how, like, yeah, like there's like ass shaking music, and then there's, yeah, the music that enlightens or like opens up like other energy centers, and inspires you to like move in a different way. There's even like neck dancing in some cultures that I'm like really familiar with. So I'm like, yeah, if Hazrat Inyat Khan was in this container right now, we would have a couple things to tell him about the physical effect of music and sound on the body. I'll tell you that much. Dang. I'm gonna hold a little bit of space to see if there's anything else y'all want to reflect on.
Yes, another of my notes. So I think it was before that part. He was talking about like how some churches don't have an organ, but they got like a group of people that just sing with their mouth closed, like
Mm.
humming chords. And
Mm.
I never considered like that as a like instrument, but yeah, like that's what the organ was kind of based off of. Like they just didn't feel like hiring people, so they put them on some pipes. So then, like I was thinking about like how does that show up in my reflection of music? And I know like in the church and stuff, like some of the churches they'll have an organ, but if there's no organist, they just do everything a cappella, and like
Mm.
everybody's humming along together, and it does produce like a certain feeling because it's like all the sounds coming from inside, like you're not really projecting. So
Mm.
like it's just like vibrating through your nostrils and face and chest area. So then like if you just hear that, you kind of connect to like how that like I think like you can connect more to music once you know like how it's made.
Mm.
So like being able to recognize somebody humming and like you've hummed before, like you kind of like reflect that feeling in yourself. And it does hit a little deeper sometimes if they do it right.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. I feel like that was one of my favorite parts of this chapter as well. That I'm like, first of all, I didn't even know that the organ was modeled after people just humming. And like, secondly, I think the first thing I thought about was like, um, olders, like, or elders that we have in our lives who like are always singing or always humming, and how like they probably don't even realize it. Some of them do, but part of what they're doing for me feels like tuning the space, and I just kind of thought about, especially in a church, like a holy site, a bunch of people there, like just singing and sort of sharing their reverence for the divine has this different effect on the body. And that, like, you're probably, like, as an audience member in that example, probably part of that, like, spiritual transmission as the receiver. but then also to know that like an entire like instrument that's in a lot of like holy spaces in a lot of churches in present time was modeled after like the reverb of a human's breath, like reverbing through their body is kind of it's kind of next level for me. Like, and I think I've heard that before, that a lot of musical instruments are modeled after some sort of interplay of either like musicians understanding more about the human anatomy through music or singing, and or just like modeling after um the way that sound interacts with the human body, and especially the bones of the body. And so it's just that part just absolutely blows my mind. So I'm glad that you brought that up, Tiff. Oh my gosh, yes. And before I read Lexi's comment, Tiff says the various violins and violas look like a body. Quite literally. Oh my gosh. That gives me like a lot of cause for pause to like appreciate, I think, how deep this relationship with sound and the body and intuition actually goes. Wow. I'm going to hold more space and then I'm going to read what Lexi said. Lexi says, I guess I can name that when it comes to music and the body, I've been generally curious about number one, cosmic versus non cosmic possession. I guess I shield with light language sometimes, or try to be as embodied as possible if I try to dance. And number two, dancing to songs that might be outside of my culture and ancestry. I hope to honor those songs and ancestry if I dance to anything as a practice for joy, or as a practice or for joy, etc. Thank you for saying that, Lexi. Yeah, and I think hmm, I'm kind of curious about that too. Like I think between cosmic and non-cosmic possession, um I guess the first thing that just comes up for me, which might just be like my perspective on it, is like cosmic possession is probably spaces that are, oh, a red cardinal just flew by. Um, that are probably like, they probably happen in spaces that are like well contained, um, where it's kind of like known, or there's like cultural foundation, or like even conversational or social foundation between shared parties, where they're like, okay, this is a spiritual circle, we're going to beat the drums and we want you to just let yourself be loose. And then like non-cosmic possession, which for some reason I feel like some of us have examples of what that's like. So it's not that I don't want to speak to it, I just don't, I guess, want to bring it into this particular container. um yeah, like being possessed in non-cosmic ways I think is actually more common. But yeah, and then the second thing that you spoke to is dancing to songs that might be outside one's culture and ancestry. And I can't, of course I can't speak for like all cultures, and of course I can't speak to all ancestry. um and I just, I feel like for my ancestors and my lineages, I'm like, if a sound brings you joy, then it's meant for you to like enjoy. And I think things like that only become problematic when the moment or like the container of experiencing like a song or food or like a specific way of like expression um kind of overshadows one's own authentic expression, you know? Because I'm like, if cultures went around to like police who was going around to like enjoy the things that they've offered from their culture, I can imagine that. I mean, there is such a thing as like culture vultures. There is such a thing as like, of course, cultural appropriation. But I also feel like somebody enjoying like a rap song, mindfully and like understanding, like even just with their body, that like where the music comes from, or like somebody appreciating like Hindu music and they're not familiar with that part of the world, or any Eastern sort of cultural foundation. Um, yeah, I think for me, the line is like, as long as it doesn't overshadow one's authentic expression, then like, what's the harm in enjoying something? Oh, that's a good question, Tiff. Oh yeah, thank you for reflecting, Lexi. Lexi says, yes, that makes sense. So Tiff says, I'm wondering how one would define and categorize a possession as cosmic or not. And Lexi responds, maybe embodied possession is cosmic, and non-embodied possession is non-cosmic. Possibly so. And Lexi says maybe also the latter of non-embodied possession is like when people twerk and are not embodied, to give concrete examples. No, I just think I'm thinking of like non-embodied twerking. I don't know, like it makes me laugh. Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel like
like I'm
that.
like, how does that like look maybe, or I'm trying to imagine like when the beat takes over me, am I embodied or not? Like maybe if I like put a purpose into it, maybe that's when the embodiment comes in. I don't know. Like,
Mm,
because usually it's just like when it take over, you better just move. And
yes.
you get to moving. And I'm like, is that embodied? Am I, or is it like the decision to let it take over you embodied? Or is it
Mm.
just like having a certain piece of intention involved, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, intention. We got Jinx. Okay.
you you and Lexi said intention at the same time, so I feel like that's
I'm like,
important.
yeah, like, like if the beat come on and you like, "Oh yeah, my hips are tight. Let me go ahead and twerk, bust down one time." Like that's probably embodied, or like, I'm into the Baton Rouge gangsta like music, and sometimes it's just fun to just jig across the room cuz everybody else is jigging. But like, maybe I'll tap into the lyrics and be like, I ain't scared. Pistol play the only way I play it. And it's like maybe I'm trying to build some maybe I'll put it on right before a job interview so I can walk in looking confident and
Yeah.
and then, something like that.
Yes, Tim. First of all, yes for jigging across the room, because sometimes it just happens like that. If you know,
Yeah.
you know. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I agree, y'all. Y'all said energetic intention. Lexi said, I think of pre-verbal, but I don't know if it would apply for this. Yeah, and I'm glad, Tiff, that you brought in those different layers of context, because it's like, at what moment does something become embodied? Like when the intention is behind it, or when you allow your body, or when you kind of like notice that it has like a parallel use, kind of like you said, like, oh, my hips are stiff. They dancing at the party, so this is perfect. This like two for one, you know? So yeah, I think it actually, I don't know, it gives me a lot to reflect on. Yeah, and so Lexi says in the chat, I think of pre-verbal, but I don't know if it would apply for this. Yeah, also affirmations feel like they work like that too. Like before work or a job interview. Mhm. Wow. Yeah, I agree. It's also interesting because I'm like, I feel like it actually brings me to the part in the text that I thought was interesting, and I'll just read a couple sentences from this paragraph. If you're following along in the text, it's paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I should number my paragraphs before I hop on. 7, 8, 9. Paragraph 9. And so it says, now this life current that comes through the breath and manifests through the voice and touches the other person, what action does it take? It touches the five senses: the sense of sight, the sense of hearing, the sense of smell, the sense of taste, the sense of touch. Although it comes directly through the sense of hearing, it is not true that a person hears sound only through his ears. He hears sound through every little pore of his body, their body, her body. It permeates their whole being, and according to its particular influence, it either slows the rhythm or quickens the rhythm of the blood circulation. It either wakens the nervous system or soothes it. It arouses a person to higher passions, or it calms them by bringing them peace. I guess I'm reading the whole paragraph. In accordance with with the sound and its influence, in accordance with the sound and its influence, a certain effect is produced. So I guess I kind of wanted to bring in that other layer, about kind of like what we're talking about, like where music hits, how depending on our intention, or maybe I'll even say like focus for this example, depending on what we're focused on, it can impact us in a different way. And we already kind of talked about like how the body mirrors the way certain instruments look or the way that certain instruments function. We talked about the bones, but now we have the blood being brought into this other layer in terms of the interplay between sound and the body, right? So I'm like, what do y'all think with that added layer as far as music either, and also the nervous system, like music having this effect on the blood and the circulatory system, and then music and sound having this effect on the nervous system? I'm curious what you guys make of that, or what kind of experiences that you guys might have that align with that. I mean, we kind of already kind of talked about it, but I guess yeah, this is just like an extra lens for us to zoom in a little bit deeper.
I think I would say like if I don't let myself move to the music, like sometimes I'll listen to something as a meditation and just like try not to move and just like gauge my feelings. And I can definitely feel like, certain emotions rise or something, and it'll reflect in my nervous system, or like my heart might beat a little faster or something. And it'll just then that's its own energy going on, like moving around, creating its own music in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, and Lexi just jinx in the chat with you. She said, "I noticed some songs can either be grounding or accelerate my heart rate, even when I'm not physically moving." Yeah, I noticed the same thing too, y'all. I know. I'm curious. Like, what about a song that you like? What is that? I don't know. I feel like a song that I really really like when I can like hear the opening chords. I guess what I think of is like that nervous system rush, where sometimes I feel like a flash of like hot or cold energy will like flow through my system, and I'm like, love this song. Like, you know?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. That happens to me. Like whenever a recognizable song comes on, or like I might be at the store. Oh, this happens at the grocery store a lot.
Mm,
So I'll just be minding my business, walking the aisles, and I'll have one headphone in, listening to like an audiobook or whatever, music or thicker or whatever, and then like it'll be like some Michael Jackson Motown type, like that first lick from the Jackson 5, I Want You Back. And I'm like,
oh,
oh snap, oh snap. And like it is a rush, like from like my feet, and like spreads throughout my body real quick. Like it's slow enough to feel the travel happen, but it's also like so quick. Like it's time to jam.
yeah,
Like let me put these headphones away so I can walk down the aisles on beat.
yeah. Oh my God, Tim. Because it really does feel like that, where it's like you enter like a scene in a movie of sorts, and it's like, what, like quite literally what you said, like, let me walk on beat. Bro, I've had that thought process so many times. So many times. And sometimes I'll walk in grocery stores just since we're talking about Michael Jackson, and bruh, they'll be playing Blame It on the Boogie, and like I'm like tearing up thinking about it now. Like the response in my body is so visceral. I'm like, oh my God. Like you would swear that I'm on the dance floor or like at somebody's like cookout. Cause I'm like, yo, the way that sound interplays. Oh my God, I was thinking about that too earlier this week. Cause that's what this brings up for me too. Like it interacts with the body, but then also like I start to think about, and like really quick, it happens super fast, like you said, where like in my mind, what flashes is like all the memories that I have associated. Yes, Blame It on the Boogie slaps. Like that song, huh, so near and dear to my heart. Please listen to it. If you guys are listening to the podcast, after you're done with this, go listen to Blame It on the Boogie. But yeah, like I start to also picture all the times of like when I was listening to that song or like when I first heard that song too, like those memories will like rush in. And I find it so, so fascinating that music has that effect on us. I really do. So I'm gonna also read what Lexi said in the chat. Also in the past, Lexi says, growing up, lots of songs would make me disassociate, and I would associate that with nervous system dysregulation. Definitely. Yes, yeah, and so on the opposite end of the spectrum, there's also those experiences as well, where I also have like a record of songs, let's say in my memory or sounds that bring on what I call the disassociation. Cause I'm like, I can literally feel it where it's like something is eclipsing my awareness. And I'm like, not only am I not here, like I couldn't be here if I wanted to. And it's not even because I dislike the song, but sometimes ugh, I'm also thinking about the times I worked in retail where they would just like have music blasting, and I'm just like, this this does nothing for my nervous system. In fact, it makes me hate being here even more. So thank you for saying that, Lexi. Tiff says time for a montage. Oh yes. Oh, I love a montage. So Lexi also says in the chat, that reminds me, in the mall too, like in the fitting rooms when some songs come on, I feel like I'm in those coming of age movies or something. Maybe because of a collective egregores, laugh my ass off. Come on. Same. I don't like loud stores, and sometimes they are dark too. That's so interesting too that like a lot of us have that. It seems like a core. It might be an egregore because I'm like people be like core memories, but I'm like it's a core egregore. And I'm like, yeah, I wonder why a lot of us have that like montage vibe because I'll have that experience sometimes too with certain music. If I like it, if I walk in someplace and I have my headphones in, usually I can like tune the music so I can feel like I'm in a movie. But then sometimes, yeah, certain songs in stores can elicit that, like where I'm like trying on clothes and I'm like, bam, bam, like. But it's so weird. It's so weird how that like, maybe it's a main character egregore. Where it's like I'm the star of the
Yeah,
show.
yeah, definitely a main character. It's that feeling like okay, you've seen it before. Like growing up, you watch these movies, and there's always a montage of something. Like when I was little, my brother said, I wish I could make my life a montage because like and in the course of like 3 minutes, somebody is like becoming a superstar or like a top notch athlete because they did a bunch of push ups and stuff while the Eye of the Tiger was playing. And now I'm like, yo, I've been thinking about that for a long time, and I might go into that later. But also, like going back to what y'all are saying about like sometimes the music makes you feel like you're in the movie and like it's like, yeah, I'm doing great things now because the song is great. But other times, like it can make you feel like that weird dystopian feeling of like this is like dark, but for some reason there's cheerful music playing. And it goes both ways.
It does. Tiff, literally, I'll have those moments too where I'm like, yeah, I'm in a dystopian capitalist wasteland and they're playing like Blame It on the Boogie right now. And I'm like, what?
Well, yeah, when you gotta work like a Black Friday shift and they
Oh,
blasting Christmas music, and it's just like jingle bells, ching bells, like it's and you're just like, I would like to lay down and not get back up. Thank you.
precisely that, yo. It's exactly that. And yeah, like Lexi said, she's like, Lexi said in the chat, maybe also this makes us less aware to not have awareness when we buy stuff. And I agree. Cause it is like it's so I mean, just in the context of like shopping malls, either where whether you're shopping or working there, I'm like something about that is so dark that it's like we're being like funneled either to work for these companies or I mean, aside from like any judgment call that I might have from the around companies that like support this, I do notice that. And I used to even work for a company, I won't say their name because this is recorded, but I used to work for a company that would deliberately on their retail floor turn up the music louder during like a busy rush so that more people would just like impulsively grab things. And like sometimes I would even notice like people going to grab things as soon as like a beat drop in a song or like as soon as the instruments would get high. I'm like, yo, this is so dark. So dark. Ooh, Lexi, I'm gonna read what Lexi said in the chat. Also, I feel like it creates ruptures in experiences, or maybe ruptures in quote space times in our bodies when songs can make things like body image issues, or distortions worse. Yeah. Do you want to say more on that, Lexi? Because yeah. And I'm glad that we're kind of like talking about this polarity, right? Because I feel like chapter 17 is so I would say like beautifully woven even regarding how like there is this like effect on our bodies and our in our experiences too regarding the music and sound we listen to. And then I also feel like what we're talking about is like this really down to earth like modern day context that helps us see like yeah, like these are times where music is super helpful and also this is like when music and sound can take on a more disintegrative shape and yeah, kind of like either highlight or exemplify like how kind of disconnected our reality is sometimes. Just the same way that I think music can be one of those things that actually brings people and voices and social stratospheres together. So I'm really happy that we're like kind of walking this fine line together because I don't think it's just one or the other. So yeah, thank y'all for bringing this up. I'm going to read what Lexi said. I feel like it can be connected to this. Oh, the comment that Lexi had made earlier about shopping malls and being in the fitting room, for example, or maybe what one sees in movies and not looking like those main characters. Quote, the ideal white woman archetype, maybe? I don't know. I'm only laughing because I'm like, it's so specific. You're not off, but yeah, that is, yeah. Yeah, and I also think about that too. Like there are some I guess I'll say in my experiences, especially when I was like quite literally coming of age and I wasn't in a movie, like I was just like living this real deal life. I like there were songs that were tuned to a particular like frequency and I would even say tuned to kind of gather my awareness in specific parts of my body. And then like there's also music videos. So I feel like there's this whole reality. There's a lot of concerted effort to like tailor music in a specific way and our experience with music in a particular way to where like it can exemplify certain things like insecurities or like make you I know a lot of like modern music, especially made by like women and femme folk right now is all about like reclaiming the like, I would call it, just this is my personal read, like the bad bitch archetype, you know, because I feel like it's also like it's interesting because I feel like artists subvert a lot of identities on purpose so that they can kind of like um I think at least transmit these like space-time realities through their music. And so I feel like in current time with a lot of the music archetypes that are like present and like circulating in our current time can really like polarize you in one way or another, either for better or for worse. Um so yeah, I'm gonna also read what Tiff said in the comment. When you go to in the chat, I mean, um and Tiff writes, when you go to pose cheerfully in the mirror but realize you look clapped, I quit trying on clothes for a while. Yo, yeah, same. I was actually literally just talking to some people before I got on this book club to like I was just kind of like sharing my personal kind of like journey with that. And I think one thing that I was sharing with them was like how during the pandemic and when a lot of people weren't going outside, I was just like in the house, like wearing like a lot of like traditional, like cultural dresses that from the outside looking in, they just look like muumuus basically. And so like I was like wearing muumuus for like a year and a half straight. Even when I was like working, I would throw like a cardigan on one really like patterned one. And you know, my administrative staff was none the wiser, y'all. And how like when things started changing as far as like the world went and like my personal world in relation to the world, I was like, okay, time to start like, you know, like going outside. And I felt like I quite literally could not dress. Like I felt like I had lost like my sense of not only like fashion, but like my sense of fashion in relation to like my body. Whereas like, oh my God, I don't even know how to dress my body anymore, you know? And I know we kind of deviated from like sound and music a little bit, but it's cool. Um, but yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up, Tiff, because I'm like, there was a huge gap for me that was created between like my sense of fashion, my sense of like dressing to adorn my body, and then not saying that muumuus make you lose that, because there's also a lot of social discourse about how like muumuus are kind of like the reason why like our grandparents got laid. So I'm just kind of speaking to like what's in the container right now, which feels like a little bit of, I'll say it and shield it, body dysmorphia in influenced by like the sound and the music and the cultural landscape that that sound and that music is co-created in. So I'm really happy that we're talking about this. Yeah, I feel
I
a lot of
think
sync. Sorry,
I
Tiff, go on. My bad.
I was gonna say like I think it kind of can relate to music like in the sense of like the mysticism part where he was talking in the earlier chapters about like how people who dress like shows the some kind of musicality about 'em. I don't remember exactly what he was saying, but
Yeah.
like these I got my sister's getting married and usually I always try to find some sort of beautiful gowns, but I went on a cheap little website and got a caftan and it got a bunch of uh sparkly stuff on it. So it's like dressy, but it's a caftan and a caftan is basically a muumuu. And
Yeah.
like I'm like, you know what? Because I'm trying to, dress more modest these days, like I don't even be wearing gowns anyways. Like my brother got married and I had to wear a gown because the bridesmaid was like, this is what we're wearing as bridesmaids. And so I was like, yeah, my chest all out, but I don't really like that. But I looked good. I did look good, but like that's not my
You're-
style, so I wasn't really embodying it. I was just like, oh
Mm,
gosh, I hope this double sided tape act right. But like now, I'm about to be pulling up with this essentially like uh rhinestone muumuu on, and I'm gonna just be comfortable, and it's gonna show because it's like a really nice color, and like I'm gonna be feeling right, and so the vibe's gonna be right, and so like that kind of is a thing, and for like when I'm like at the at the store trying on clothes, like they probably not those clothes probably wasn't made for my body type. 9 times out of 10, it's not gonna be long enough because I'm a jolly green giant, and like I'm just like, oh man, I thought these pants were gonna be so cool, but I look like a weirdo because they only come to like mid ankle calf.
Yeah.
And like now I gotta think about what kind of shoes I'm gonna wear. They were supposed to cover my shoes a bit, but nope. So it's like everything is like a disappointment in that. And then the music, the cheerful like '70s bop that you usually do a clothing montage to is just not hitting. Like it's not adding to the wonder splendor of the moment at all.
Mm, that's so real, bro. The splendor of the moment. Yes. Oh my God. I do feel like it relates. Yeah, you're so right. And thank you for sharing that example. Cause I do feel like I've experienced that like dressing room disappointment too. And I'm like, bro, none of these clothes are made for my body type. None of these clothes like respect where the curves are and accentuate where they're a little bit too much. And I'm just like, wow, like this, yeah, it kind of takes away from that like ability to like step into the experience and maybe like have a moment where you're like celebrating your body or a little, embracing a little bit of main character energy. And I feel like it can kind of um wow, because I'm like, dang, we need to have a fashion conversation one day and one of these containers. Cause I'm like, and not just, yeah, not just about fashion for dressing, but like the relationship between that, like what you adorn your body with, and then like not only the frequency it emits to other people, but like what it emits back to you. Cause that's kind of what I think of, Tiff, when you were speaking to like, getting the caftan for your sister's celebration and like feeling like that actually exemplifies and captures what you feel is beautiful more so than like going to see these beautiful gowns, these dresses, that are like in these boutiques. And granted, they're probably beautiful too, but I feel like, man, I have this conversation all the time with my people because some of the clothes that I feel the most comfortable with at home do not relate to like how I like to dress outside for me, just personally. And so, like, sometimes my sister, like, and we're candid, her and I have this kind of relationship. She'll be like, why are you wearing that frumpy ass whatever? She's like, why are you wearing those frumpy ass pants? And I'm like, I love them. They're my frumpy pants. Like, because there's like this, forget like, I mean, like, there is this aspect of embodiment, but I'm like, yo, sometimes certain clothes just make me feel like I can quite literally, it is embodiment, like take up more space in, like my spirit can take up more space in my body, you know? And I'm like, maybe I'm a little attached to the pants. They're cute. I like them, but they're also like, I don't know, like I guess I want to ask y'all, like, what are certain things that you do as far as like adornment, or what sort of pieces do you look for in adornment that help you with that feeling like, oh my God, my spirit can actually take up more space in my body? I would love to know.
I like overalls, like a good one piece, a onesie, like this caftan that I got. It's just
Yeah.
long. It's gonna cover. It's like a one cover my whole body. It's like something simple, but still, I don't know, fashionable in a sense. I don't know what that means. I don't understand fashion at all. But like, just like to feel like comfortable. Cause I got a sensory issue. So like I used to wear tight clothes, but like now it gives me the heebie-jeebies if
Mm.
like my pants are too tight or something, or like if there's any unnecessary pressure on my body, I'm like
Mm.
I can't. It's gotta feel comfortable. It's gotta be cool. If I start to sweat, it
Oh
can't
my
be
God.
rubbing on me the wrong way. Like then I'm
Yes.
just like pulling the shirt off myself all the time. 'Cause I can't deal with that. So it's mostly like the feel. Like if it feels like I've put on some clothing and I'm not naked, and then when I look in the mirror, if the silhouette is, if I look like some kind of distinguished human being of sorts, don't matter what the culture is. It's like I could probably be okay. And then the color got to be like a nice bold color, like a good hefty purple. That always gets me going.
Mm.
It's just like those little things like that that feel right. If any of that elements in there, I might grab it. But yeah, I love a onesie. For a long time, I was wearing overalls, and I need a new pair because these don't fit the same. But I remember I used to get all kind of backlash from like guys on like dating apps, be like, "Oh, why don't you put on a dress or something? You look like a carpenter." I'm like, mind your business. These overalls make me feel happy and sociable, so I'm going to wear them. Thank you.
Period. And I think I know the overalls you're talking about.
You know
And
the overalls.
yeah,
You've seen them.
I think we have a picture with you wearing one of them, and they look fucking great. And I've also seen you switch up the undergarments, like the colors of shirts you put on underneath. So can confirm that overalls is a Tiff thing, and I don't think it should change personally. But yeah, I love that. Purple also is really empowering because we talked about that too, like a couple book clubs ago about how like color theory does a thing too. So yeah, I love that. I'm gonna read what Lexi said. Lexi said, I noticed over the years I like a mix of comfort and tight fitting clothes. Maybe it helps me with grounding or moving with my whole body. Ooh, interesting. That's so interesting. Are there any like colors or like parts of an outfit that like I know for like some of my friends, cardigans are big for them, like or some sort of sweater wherever they go because I think it is like one of my friends actually said that where she's like I actually feel protected when I have like a sweater on. And I don't think it has much to do with modesty with her. I think it's more like I think it's a mix of a couple things, but I won't dox her. I think it has to do with yeah, exactly what she said, like her feeling comfortable um like wherever she goes, especially when she's in public. She likes to put on a sweater or a cardigan. Oh, Tiff said, I need more turtlenecks. I feel fancy in a turtleneck with a colorful necklace on top. Oh my God, that is such a look, Tiff. I am not gonna lie. Like, even from a spiritual perspective, like when I see somebody of any gender, of any orientation or anything wearing like a turtleneck with a bold necklace or even a dainty necklace that pops, I'm like, oh, you had your stuff together today. You thought about this. Like I can literally feel that from them. I'm like, there is consideration in this outfit choice, and it always looks good. It looks so sleek. I love it. Ooh, Lexi said, as an example, I remember I would wear leggings and a long, comforting shirt when I used to go to the gym, and I felt like it helped me with posture and getting certain lifting movements right. Ah, Shay. Yeah, Lexi, I've had certain leggings that have that feature built into them too, where they're like posture adjusting or posture supportive. And honestly, there's literally no more to me at least, like no more of a comfortable outfit than like a long, big baggy t-shirt and leggings. I'm like, yes, set me up. Cause yeah, that's a vibe. I feel like for me lately, what I've been really into, and I know this is a fashion kind of thing, is like baby t-shirts or like crop t-shirts and big baggy pants. I just love that vibe. Like I haven't had the opportunity to put together some pieces or mix and match pieces to wear it outdoors, but I'll like run some quick errands, like if I'm going to the grocery store, just putting gas in my car, or just going to do like pickup from a grocery store. I'm like, I'll put it on and I'm like, I literally feel so not only just like beautiful, I'm like, I feel bad. Like, I feel bad. Like, and then the color of like the sweats, if they're like a bold color, like like something like emerald, whether it's like emerald purple or like or a royal purple or like a royal green. I'm like, yeah, yo, I'm feeling myself. Yes, Tiff. Tiff says I do like leggings and compression shirts when I work out. Yo, whoever's listening to this later is getting all the fashion tea, and you're welcome. Because I do feel like adornment is also a part of the Sharia way, no cap. Like, no cap. I feel like adornment and beauty is so um tied to some of the lineages that are being supported by this way. So, like seriously, egregores be gone. My mom just got a whole box shipment from her niece of like dresses and hijabs and like um literally halal adornments. And like my mom, that's why I was late to this call a little bit because she was like modeling for me. She's like, boom, boom. She was like walking down the hallway and like all the different colors. I was like, they look so good on you. Or like going back and forth. But I'm like, yeah, it's funny, especially I do want to speak to like modesty for some reason. It feels like it's in the container that I'm like, there is a little bit of conflation with like modesty having to just, I feel like sometimes people think modest has to mean like gray, beige, white, Kim Kardashian house aesthetic, like this minimalism. And I have nothing against minimalism. I think there's a time and place for everything. But I also feel like the conflation with like halal or modest dress, especially for femme or woman bodied folk, has to be like frumpy or like has to like take away from one's features. And I thought that for a long time too, just because of the mainstream sort of influx of projections on the Muslim way, and also like different cultures that keep the Muslim way. And it wasn't until like I remember one Eid, it was years back. Basically, long story short, I was getting dressed with my people. We were like getting ready to go to prayer, and I remember my aunt, who I saw as like the most religious, where she had like been to Hajj. Some of her kids like memorized the Quran. So like, just I was intimidated by like that kind of spiritual merit. Let's say. I remember she came to me and I was wearing like an abaya, and she put a belt around it. And she's like, you're like 14, 15 now. I think that's how old I was. No, I think I was like, I don't know. I forgot how old I was. I think I was 12. She was like, you're a young woman. She's like, you need to like appreciate your shape. And I remember she belted it. And I sure did make me appreciate my shape. But more than that, I was like, what? Like, just this idea of this like super religious family member telling me I need to like celebrate the fact that I'm in a woman's body. I was like, hold on. This is not what mainstream says about us. So I also feel like, yeah, like outside of my experience, or what that experience kind of reflected back to me, was like, is modesty is also up for delineation. I think that's something that we probably should talk about culturally, at least often, so that we don't get like stuck in the way that we interpret modesty. um yeah, Tiff says sometimes I feel like a burrito when I'm trying to do modesty. But there, I definitely can relate to that. But Tiff says, but there are ways to make it gorgeous. Absolutely. 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 Lexi says there is a lot of shame in my family around religion, clothes, wearing hijab, modesty, or modesty from the lens of egregores. I mean, yeah. Yeah, and I feel like it's so interesting because I'm like, it could be in any given family, because I've seen this with other friends of mine and just people I've been in community with who have grown up Muslim. One thing I have noticed is that they'll speak to like even a difference of opinion within their own nuclear households, where it's like one caregiver feels one way, another caregiver feels another way. Um and I'll say even for me, it wavered for a long time because I did at some point like have a hijab. I used to wear the hijab, but I also used to wear it in like different ways. I've also like been transparent with my family and also myself that I'm like, there's probably going to be a point in my life where I go back to wearing a hijab. Um, because I do think that expression and not only like the way that you dress yourself and adornment, but I think if we go kind of back to the text, if music, sound, adornment, and color has this effect on our body, and we can integrate that effect on our body in our field of awareness too, then I'm not saying that you lose the need for like interacting with music or sound or adornment or clothing, but I think the attachment to the symbolism wears off after a while, at least for me and from what I've seen from my perspective, and it kind of changes your relationship to whatever artifact of expression you're connecting to from my perspective. So like in other words, it's like if I'm wearing a hijab because just using myself in this example, if I wear a hijab because I'm afraid of being interpreted in a certain way, then I I think it would be difficult for me to personally imagine having a healthy relationship with the hijab unless I was doing like the personal work around it. But the hijab isn't the only thing, but I would go so far even to bring in instead of hijab in that example, modesty. Um and I also think it has a lot to do with the person. You know, like it's an internal prerogative for people to start to adorn themselves how they see fit. And I think it's also an internal prerogative for people to decide if they're done with a particular type of adornment, right? So, like, if you dress less modest and you decide to dress more modest, or if you're going from the spectrum of having been modest and dressing less modest, I think those are explorations. And I think, yeah, it's like a prerogative of each individual body to like situate themselves in a place that suits their growth, their path and their joy, you know? Like sometimes I'll wear a hijab and like during Eid, and like of course it has a lot of like celebratory vibes around it for me personally. Um, there's times where I'm like, I literally have never felt more beautiful, you know? And then if I like rewind in past contexts in my life when I was younger and I was being forced to wear the hijab, I would be like, I can't wait to get this shit off of me, you know? Not that it's shit, but in that example, I'm like, oh, you know? So I hope that context helps. Tiff says, I'm thinking about wearing a turban to the wedding. I want to cover my hair, but only one person can wear a veil on that day. Oh my gosh, Tiff. Well, first of all, congratulations to her. And wow, only one person can wear a veil on that day. Yeah, I feel that. Let us know what you decide to do because I'm like, I want to know what you decide when the day comes, unless you've decided right now.
Yeah, yeah, I think Imma do that because I was gonna, like I'm probably gonna still, like, get my hair done and everything, but I'm like, "Yeah, maybe because like, I'm trying to practice, get ready for Ramadan, so I'm, like, making more Islamic decisions these days, and I'm like, I probably should if we're gonna be at the party free mixing, I might as well cover my hair up in front of the boys. I don't know them people like that. So I'm like, all right, well, I first of all, I can't just pull up in a whole hijab yet because I'm not out to my family or anything. And I was like, what should I do? And I was like, wait, but I started looking up turban ideas. I was like, yo, that would be kind of fire. Plus, with the outfit already, like I
Yeah.
got a matching hijab, kind of, and then it came with this little strap of like the same fabric, supposed to be like a African head wrap, but I'm gonna
Mm,
make it. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it work. I'm looking up how to tie turbans on YouTube after
yeah.
this. I will share pictures in the
I
drip
was
section.
I was just gonna say, I'm like, I want to see what it looks like because I also can imagine to like the style of the dress you described plus the turban. I'm like, it feels like it's going to jump for me personally. So
Yeah.
I'm excited. Wow, and I know
Yeah.
also some people wear their head coverings like turbans, so I'm excited to see which one you come up with too.
Yeah, we got 2 weeks. I can practice, so it'll look stunning.
Stunning, darling. I can't wait to see. Yes. Yo, hair covering is one of those things that I think secularly, like, people need to do more. I've actually seen people on social media, not a huge group, people literally say, "I'm not Muslim, but the way the energetic climate is going, I need to start covering my head." Or people being like, "I'm not Orthodox Christian, but I'm about to start covering my head." So watch it become a trend. Watch it become a trend. I'm gonna read what Lexi said in the chat. Oh yeah. I also think how people might sometimes cover their heads with hats, for example, as spiritual protection. Yeah, exactly, Jake's. Well, you said it first. Sorry. As spiritual protection feels similar to hijab in a spiritual context, like to prevent spiritual attacks and the effect on them. Yep. Like I said in this chapter of my life, I'm not covering my head or my hair for spiritual reasons, but I will put on a beanie if I'm going out in public and it's cold enough. I'll put on a beanie, and then sometimes, yeah, sometimes in the summer, because it gets really hot in Louisiana, I'll just wrap my head in a turban because I'm like, child, I don't even want to subject my hair to this weather. And it does kind of act like that as a spiritual sort of. Well, it also feels like it's just a cap on whatever energy work I've done on my field, so that like energy doesn't leak out of my crown, or I don't unknowingly like receive stuff in my crown that I'm like, hey, I didn't ask for that. Protection from both energy and humidity. Yes, indeed. That's exactly what it is, especially in Louisiana. Hey, Psychonaut. So I kind of wanted to pivot for a little bit just to get back to the text. We have about 7 more minutes, 7 give or take more minutes until this container, until I close this container. So I wanted to bring up one of the paragraphs. Give me 1 second, y'all. Ah, yes, 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 yes. So, oh, I'm so sorry. So I'm going to read the paragraph. It's on page 100 for anyone following in the physical text. It is I think I'm doing this right. 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th paragraph in chapter 17. And so it reads, sound becomes visible in the form of radiance. This shows that the same energy that goes into the form of sound before it becomes visible is absorbed by the physical body. So I'm going to read that again. Sound becomes visible in the form of radiance. This shows that the same energy that goes into the form of sound before it becomes visible is absorbed by the physical body. In that way, the physical body recuperates and becomes charged with new magnetism. By a keen study of psychology, you will find that singers have a greater magnetism than the average person. Because of their own practicing, their voice makes an effect upon themselves and they produce electricity in themselves. In that way, they are charged with a new magnetism every time they practice. This is the secret of the singer's magnetism. So, what does that elicit for y'all? Or this idea of cultivating magnetism through sound?
For me, it makes me think about like from a mysticism perspective, like if you were to like be doing a chant or a mantra, and like they kind of encourage you to do it out loud, or dhikr or something, like they encourage you to do it out loud, or like I don't know, you did like move your mouth while you do it, like really get into it. so that like you putting energy in and like you creating a feedback loop with yourself. So then you kind of gas yourself up a little bit when you go out into the world, and people can sense that because they might not be as gassed up because they didn't do that thing. And then like they just like, oh, something about you. I just love your vibe. Wow. And it's like, yeah, I cultivated that vibe. I know, but you don't realize like that it's drawing people in. Like that's not why you did it, but it just kind of happens when you once you like tap into something.
Hmm. I love the voices. You were like, I love your vibe. But yeah, I agree. I agree. I also feel like this passage was like extra kind of like, I don't know, it kind of like made my heart jump a little bit because y'all know how earlier I was talking about those elders who like, or olders who like hum all the time or sing. I am that older. I am that person as I grow older. And I have come to realize that it does actually, again, like you said, Tiff, it's not like I'm trying to. It's not like that's the effect that I want to create. But sometimes I'm like, it's insane what the field that one builds by like cultivating that magnetism can like elicit from other people, but also like elicit within one's own self. Like, cause I'm like, sometimes I'll just be vibing and I'll be singing. And then like the more I sing, I'm like, sometimes I come up with lyrics or sometimes I'll just chant. And I'm like, yo, it'll take me to new levels, I'll just say, without anchoring too much into the container. But I do agree. I feel like it can be very, honestly, personally, sometimes other than being like an energy worker, my dream job would be to be a singer so that I could like spend almost all this maddening, almost a maddening amount of time cultivating my fields. But I've also found so many like beautiful ways to do that through like energy and practitioner work. But I'm like, yeah, no, the voice can be part of like co-creating your reality, I believe. Oh, I'm gonna read what Lexi said. Maybe not completely related, but it reminds me of how people with more crystalline bodies, and especially hearts, have different, more crystalline voices. Their voices are usually beautiful and or soothing to the soul, in my opinion and my experience. When you say crystalline bodies, Lexi, for those who might not know what that is, what do you mean? Just so that folks can fill in the gaps. And Agora says, there are a lot of studies on stuff like this too, which includes stuff like reduction of stress, but can reach as have what wait, hold on. My brain's doing a thing. I'm gonna reread this. There are a lot of studies on stuff like this too too, which includes stuff like reduction of stress, as far as it's okay, but reach as far as have improved memory and cardiovascular health. Yes, I agree. And there's a little typo from Agora, and I'm already forgiving him because I already knew he had COVID, so it's okay. And Lexi, to answer the question I posed to Lexi about crystallinity, she says that it relates to being more healed. Oh, sorry, on my neighbor. I got distracted, but yeah, um, more healed and more authentic life force in one's body. Yeah, I also agree too with what you said, Agora. It does make me think about like sound therapy, music as a healing tool, music as a tool to restore like cellular turnover rates, music to improve like brain health, memory, brain function, memory, and overall brain health. Cardiovascular health is really huge too. I think at some point in this text it mentioned how one of the Maharaj Maharajas, which is like a leader in the Hindu traditions. He was the Maharaja of Baroda. Um, Found out about the science of healing of the sound, the ability of sound to heal the body, and he thought to introduce music into the hospitals. Though in this example, the singers really never like tuned themselves to that wisdom, where they were ever like fully aware that like their sound had an effect on the body. So he ended up having to close that whole ordeal. But it does make me think about how there's like in current time a resurgence of people being like, oh, you know that like you can try this holistic outlet, and the holistic outlet ends up being like sound or music therapy. Um, Not just in social emotional therapy, but also like physiological and restorative to the atomic structure of the body. Hmm. Wow, this chapter was really, really full, you guys. I'm like, yeah, let me ask y'all, what are some closing reflections or maybe just reflections that are on your heart about just what we've been talking about in general today? Because I would love to hold space for it.
I think that this chapter was a good reminder of the fact that we don't just hear music, but like the body is a resonator of music. And like if sound is passing through matter, like we got a whole lot of matter carrying around with us all the time. So it's like, just you can, if you can be reminded and be conscious of that, it might shape how you approach sound and approach music and how you produce sound. And like I think there was a part in the chapter where he talked about breathing and like how the like just being able to center yourself more so you can make sure you're tuned and make sure you're on pitch with your reality and your self understanding.
Mm, 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 mm. I could not have said it better myself. So, poetry snaps from me over here. Thank you for that takeaway. And I agree. I do think that this chapter is a great reminder of the body as a resonator. Can someone please remember that quote? Because I'm going to write it down later. I feel like that should be the name of this podcast episode, The Body as a Resonator. Or maybe fashion. I don't know. We'll talk about it, Lexi. Well, yeah. Yes, thank you, too. Screenshot this. You sent that at 1234. Ashe. And I'll say, I think I feel similar too, because I'm like, sometimes I try to remember, sometimes I do forget, but I think that the body as a resonator is probably going to be my largest takeaway from our conversation today. And so this is what Agora says in the chat. I only been here a couple minutes. LOL. That said, I think this idea that humans are simply these sort of muscular skeletal things with a brain on top is really worth questioning. Humans are those things, but also communities of bacteria, electricity, and magnetism, and so much more. Shit's wild. Definitely. So much more. And light too. Yep. 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 Yeah. And I think like, I really like what you said too about like this reductive almost approach to the human body and like the relationship between sound. And then I think this expansive idea of the human body and its parts and its relationship to different parts of sound and music actually like holds. I think like that approach has way more room, and I think it also reflects the biomic sort of structure that not only we live in as like humans in the world, but also like as humans or spirits in a body, which is like this reality that we are like kind of always interfacing, kind of like what Tiff said, like we're matter, and these parts of our matter have like biomes, communities, pathways, like rules, I guess you can say that they or like foundational like realities that they function off of, especially if you look at this from like a quantum perspective, which I love doing too. And I feel like, yeah, like this is it's interesting because this is about like the mysticism of sound and music, and I think that that's a part which I think Tiff said, like looking at it from a mystic perspective, that's something that I don't think we get in our like biology classes, in our anatomy classes. And if we do ever as like a culture, like as a society, that would be so dope. I would absolutely love that. And I think that it would actually enliven some of these static schools of thought, because I feel like last book club we talked about that, about how like the way that um a lot of like current time philosophers and a lot of current time thinkers have like positioned like this right that we all have to explore the body and its interaction with reality, and they've curtailed that ability to only be like available to like scientists, universities, um really big organizations. But it's also real that like we're a part of our own experiments, when it comes to like not only like how far our body can go or like how far we can ascend, but it's also like I feel like it's almost down to every single moment that we can sort of take some time, if we have it and we can afford it, time wise, to like sit and meditate, to actually investigate where all these different points of matter interact with music, sound, light, um, and the communities of biomes that our body is constantly like resonating with or resonating off of. And so it's really fascinating to me. That's crazy, Agora. You were only here for a couple minutes, but you dropped that lore. So like, what's up? um, Agora says, when they set the criteria for what makes a scientist, they filter out a lot of people who may have perspectives that align with what we are talking about here too. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And the social red tape around mystic thinkers, I would personally just like to see that change. Like, honestly, I really, really would. So, you guys, I wanted to say thank you again for being here. Those of you all who are here live and have been containing this conversation, bringing life to it, I really appreciate y'all. For those of you all listening asynchronously, thank you so much for just journeying with me and my psychobabble a little bit, but also some of my like really well-rounded doses. Let's see. I think the next week we're gonna go straight into the following chapter, which emphasizes more of the voice. So I'm hoping, which is literally titled The Voice, so no mystery there. I'm hoping that we can maybe get more into the breath kind of conversation. I think Tiff, you kind of surfaced it in this container, but I would love to spend more time on that. We spent some time talking about fashion in here, adornment, musical effects in the social world, which I think is super important. Um, so yeah, I would love to see y'all here next week. When does this happen? Every Saturday at 11 a.m. Louisiana time. This book club is happening in the Broom Radio. and I'll be recording it for the Broom podcast. So catch me where you can. And thank y'all. Bye, Craig.